Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Today, Bridget Griffin shared a video of her daily yoga routine, 2 self-help articles, and her new blog called Build Your Inner Bridge with Bridge. Girl, your sharing has turned into oversharing. No worries, Bridge. Geico has some info worth sharing with your 7 blog followers, like how you could save money on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim just by visiting geico.com. How's that for building your inner bridge? Bridge? Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
Join us for today's episode of the Utopian Realities Slope, Save Life on Planet Earth Blog Talk Radio show, bringing you solution bearers with practical, proven, scientific ways to help you eliminate global level irradiation and extinction level threats from your body, and bringing forward the means to restore and sustain global waters, air, soil, and sentient life. Welcome. Greetings this beautiful morning. This is Lisa Wolf, your host. Welcome to the Utopian Reality Slope, Save Life on Planet Earth Friday radio show, where we speak with and make the global community aware of what's going on with the ongoing Fukushima, North American, and global irradiation and extinction level threats we're all facing, and bring forward solutions that you can help bring to bear. Solutions do exist right now that can save us from global annihilation and bring about a utopian reality now. Our guest today is Kimberly Roberson, certified nutrition educated. Kim has worked in environmental activism and holistic nutrition education, having worked at Sane, Freeze, CalPERG, and Greenpeace on a community farm in Bolinas, California. She studied holistic nutrition at Bauman College and owned and consulted at New Health Design in San Rafael and San Francisco. Kimberly has lobbied for environmental and natural health issues on the state and federal level, served on the board of the National Association of Nutrition Professionals, and as founding vice president for their California chapter. After Fukushima erupted, her petition calling for radiation monitoring of food, milk, and water led to the formation of the Fukushima Fallout Awareness Network, and she co-created the Radiation Awareness Protection Talk wrapped audio program. In Silence Deafening, Fukushima Fallout, A Mother's Response, Kimberly Roberson writes, "The silence after the earthquake, nuclear meltdown, and tsunamis AF after Fukushima was truly deafening and unlike anything I had experienced before, surreal. Twilight Zone comparisons were hard to avoid. Knowing what I knew and then seeing those facts be so thoroughly disregarded by the media and elected officials had begun to take on a sort of nightmare quality. In the book, Kimberly alerts us to radioactive fallout in U.S. topsoil, groundwater, produce, and dairy during the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster we're living through, and urges protecting California agriculture and immediate transition to renewable energy. Greetings, Kim. Thanks for joining us. First, would you tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book Silence Deafening, Fukushima Fallout, A Mother's Response?
Thank you, Lisa. And first of all, I do want to congratulate you on your podcast. I think it's fantastic. It's always so inspiring to see people like you step up and create a forum for this type of information. It's so urgently needed. Thank you. I had a similar experience, I guess, when I wrote the book. It really wasn't intentional, though. It was just because the silence was deafening. There was nothing out there at that time. If we flash back to March of 2011 when Fukushima began, it was just a complete black hole. There was hardly any information at all on the Internet. Whereas today there's so much, which is great. But the silence was truly deafening, and I never planned to write it. I'll name a few names here. Molly Lightfoot, who's the executive director of the Helen Caldecott Foundation, asked me to write a piece for their website about a petition that I had started on April 1st of 2011 on change.org. Just a very basic petition. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, not able to really do a whole lot more, and it's a general petition calling for monitoring of food and water due to the nuclear disaster at Fukushima. But I knew then that it wasn't going to be over in 2012, like the Japanese authorities were saying. We learned a lot from Chernobyl. So she had asked me to write about the petition. She posted it on their website.
Oh, my. I think that we just lost Kim. Let me get her back. Okay, let's see if we can get her back.
Hello?
Hi, there you are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you were talking about, yes, we are on the air.
Okay, right. Okay, so to pick up, Libby Halevi saw this article and she recommended that I turn it into an ebook, which at the time was so, I couldn't even imagine doing something like that. But it's interesting how, necessity being the mother of invention, things happen. And then someone saw the ebook and asked for it in print. So it kind of grew organically. Somebody called it that once. It grew organically. I guess that's a good description. And okay.
And you particularly felt compelled as a mother. Can you speak about what this whole situation means to you as a mother?
Well, what happened was, because I had previously had experience with this issue, I worked at Greenpeace a few years after the Chernobyl experience began. That was in 1989. I am an older mom. And I flash back to all of that coming down in the rain, standing at my kitchen window in Northern California in 2011. I knew that the jet stream was carrying that radioactivity over to the U.S., and it was landing on agricultural fields. So I, as a parent, it was just absolutely essential that I bear witness to that. I don't know that my experience, how different it would have been if I wasn't a parent. I'm sure it wouldn't have been as extreme of an emotional feeling about it. Totally went into protecting not only my kid, but other kids. And to see that it wasn't happening already was just astonishing to me, that our elected representatives and the media were not talking about it at all. I remember being in my car listening to the radio a few days after this all started, and NPR did a story on Tokyo, and I was like, oh, this is great, and I pulled over, and it was about architects in Tokyo and new buildings that they were designing. It was just surreal.
So did the petition have an impact? And
well, sure. I mean, so far, I guess maybe I should tell you a little bit about Fukushima Fallout Awareness Network and how that began. It actually, Silent Deafening, Fukushima Fallout, is kind of a book that talks about my personal experience, harkens back to what happened with Chernobyl, and puts it into the present-day context of what's still happening with Chernobyl and now what's happening with Fukushima. And it's a good layman's tool to raise awareness. And it describes towards the end of the book the formation of the Fukushima Fallout Awareness Network. And we used that petition to take to our senators' offices and to make a lot of phone calls and do a lot of outreach on the internet to bring awareness to what was happening. And the petition is still active. It's at change.org. And, the first time we went to Senator Dianne Feinstein's office, we printed out the petition and just took this huge stack with us. And it was very satisfying to be able to do that. I mean, that's the thing that gets you in the door with a lot of these meetings, if you know that you have people that also agree with you. in large numbers. It definitely helps.
So how exactly then did you begin the Fukushima Fallout Awareness Network, and who makes up the organization? And are you finding support within the California congressional delegation then in an ongoing fashion?
Well, at that time, there was a lot of work going on to close down San Onofre in Southern California. So Senator Barbara Boxer was focused a lot on that. Senator Feinstein, not so much. We still need to be pressuring them. I know Barbara Boxer is going to be leaving office soon, and we don't know who's going to take over for her. But the signatures started being delivered electronically to their offices, and I called around to several organizations to help, and that includes Food and Water Watch, NIRS, Nuclear Information Resource Service, Ecological Options Network, and Citizens for Health. And they were at the very kind of core of our group when we first started. Now, Food and Water Watch was the only group that had any about this on the internet. So I called them. I'd never worked with any of them before. They came to our first meetings, and then they decided to work on something else, and I wasn't sure what that was going to be. And so now I'm really clear. They're very focused on fracking, have been for quite a while, which is great, but they didn't come to any more of our subcommittee meetings. That was disappointing, I'll be honest. But then we still had some real dynamic experts with these other groups, and they still are part of what we're doing. So, and also Beyond Nuclear now stands fiscal sponsor. So just to kind of put it in context, we do have a Facebook presence, we have a Facebook page and we're very careful who we let on to our group, try to avoid as much as possible. So we've got a little under 3,000 members, and then we interact a lot with other Facebook and sharing our petitions, and I'll get more into other. We have a steering committee, and we have a fiscal sponsor, Beyond Nuclear, and we're actively shopping a fundraising grant proposal right now. Once that proposal is funded, we have a whole that's ready to go, but it needs money, honestly. There's only so much you can do about it, and I think we're doing pretty good. But, you know, we can always do more.
Sure. So tell us about the Fukushima Fallout Awareness Network's petition to lower allowable levels for man-made radiation in food. What are we looking at?
Right. Well, a lot of people listening or will be listening know about this petition, but for those who don't, it was written a few years ago with the help, the legal expertise and help of Citizens for Health. Jim Turner, who's the chairman of Citizens for Health, he's an attorney. He's one of the original Nader Raiders. He's done phenomenal work in his career, and we were so lucky to have his assistance. This petition addresses the outrageous levels of man-made radiation that are currently allowed in our food and water in the U.S., 1,200 becquerel per kilogram. Now, a becquerel is a unit of measurement for radiation. It's equal to 1 atomic disintegration per second. 1,200 becquerel is allowed in a kilogram of food in the U.S. So a kilogram is a little under 2.5 pounds. So say 1,200 becquerel a kilogram of cesium-134 or 137 are allowed in 2.5 pounds of spinach, be it organic or conventional, doesn't matter. In Japan, to look at the comparison, they have and ours is just a recommendation, by the way. They have a binding limit of 100 becquerel per kilogram. The food that is deemed unfit for human consumption in Japan is set here and in other parts of the world. Canada is the only country that has anything close to the U.S.'s abysmal standards. They have 1,000 becquerel per kilogram. So what our petition is seeking is to lower it to 5 becquerel per kilogram and then lower than that when the technology becomes available, and that goes for food and nutritional supplements. There are no safe levels of cesium-134, 137, iodine-131, or any of the hundreds of other radionuclides that are emitted through nuclear disasters. these 134 and 137 are good markers for others, but none of them are safe at any dose. So we really grappled with this 5 becquerel per kilogram and figured, that was a place to start, and we would go lower when technology becomes available. We didn't know this at the time, but when we were writing our citizen petition, we found out after we submitted it that there was a group over in Europe that was calling for basically the very same thing, Physicians Against Nuclear War. For some reason I'm blanking on their name right now, which is weird. But they were calling for almost the very same number. So we knew that we had done the right thing then. This is a global movement. So we're still collecting comments on the petition. It's at www.ffan.us. And we're asking for comments. Now, there is a companion petition that is just a signature petition at moveon.org, and that's also available at our website, ffan.us.
Okay, and you also have another petition calling for no Olympics or Paralympics in radioactive Fukushima. Are there really plans for some of the Olympic venues to be in the Fukushima prefectures?
That's absolutely right for 2020 Summer Olympic Games. And it sounds completely bizarre, but what happened was on the 5th anniversary of the beginning of the Fukushima nuclear disaster back on March 11th, the Olympic minister in Japan stated via the Associate Press that it was his intention that some of the games be held in venues in Fukushima Prefecture. And the games are preliminary baseball, softball, and soccer. And this is absolutely preposterous. To have the Olympics in Japan in 4 years is troubling enough, but to put them right in Fukushima, it's just astonishing. During the course of researching the petition, we found plenty of data pointing to the contamination not only in Fukushima Prefecture, but also Tokyo and several other parts of the country. It's in the tap water in several cities around the country. Greenpeace recently issued 2 reports simultaneously citing contamination in areas that the government had been telling people it was fine to return to their homes. So to bring the world's children to this site, there are plans to use J Village for one of the venues. Now, J Village was used as a staging area for people who were fleeing the disaster back in 2011. And I think it's already converted. They're not using it quite yet, but they are planning to train their own soccer athletes there and holding this up as a model for the world. But we know better. So these are children. Children are more vulnerable to man-made radiation, to internal contamination. There's evidence to support that, plenty of it. So it's really an abomination, and we're collecting the signatures. They're going to several people, the State Department, Secretary of State John Kerry, the International Olympic Committee, Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, Jimmy Carter. We know that he's still doing a lot of great humanitarian work. So a lot of people are receiving the petition. It's doing pretty well, but we always need more signatures.
Yes, and I know that former Ambassador Murata has been calling for Japan to pull out of the Olympics, and I hope that that we would see that happen, and it's rather amazing. Kimberly, how can busy people, parents, caregivers become more involved?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Lisa, it really does get to the heart of the matter. And a lot of people listening today don't need this advice. You're already working really hard and you know who you are. But overall, involvement is in very short supply. And recently what comes to mind, I saw a video that went viral online just this past week of a little boy. Did you see that one? Probably 4 or 5 years old, sitting in his car seat and crying about the trees being cut down and the planet. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it.
Well, it was this little boy sitting in his car seat, and he was sobbing. He was so upset about clear cutting of trees and people doing bad things, as he put it, to the planet and what was happening overall. And he was really sad and angry. And so many of the emotions that we all have were there, but for him to have them at such a young age was not inspiring to me, which I think was the intent of the video when the person posted it. It was sad because where are the parents and what are they doing? He talked about how much he wanted to be grown up and all the things to do. He grew up to protect the planet and the trees. But for someone so young to experience such, to me, was troubling. And I understand, because when I was 8 years old, I first experienced the trauma of learning about Hiroshima. And that was really what set me on my course. But that was also the end of innocence, personally. And sure, it would have been, I think, better if I'd found out a few years later. But as it was, I understand how that trauma feels, and I'm sure a lot of people do. What I would have really loved to have seen was the camera turn away from the little boy to the person taping so that he or she could console the child and reassure him that they were going to do more to protect him and the planet. Make that go viral, because parental involvement is seriously lacking. And I see it all the time through my son's community and my community. So many schools in the U.S. teach the 6 pillars of character, so parents are already getting a sense of this. One of the 6 pillars teaches that good citizenship is important, and take it in the context of being a good, member of society. And to me, though, when you really read it, it sounds a lot like activism. So here we are teaching kids all around the country that it's great to be activists, but they should really be learning by example, And yeah, that can be an added burden or another way to protect our kids in a meaningful way. It depends on how you look at it. But it's really a two-pronged approach, and I think that, we do need to take steps to protect our families and ourselves, but we also need to be involved with the larger picture. And keeping kids safe doesn't end at our doorstep or at our school or our church. It's so much bigger than that. So in this age of the Internet, everybody can do something, even if it's only for a few hours a week or a few minutes a day. And once somebody told me, well, they didn't have a computer, and I asked them if they had a library card, and I said, you should get one, because you can go and use the library, or use your smartphone for a little self-act. Very cool. And I would just say, too, that previous experience is not necessary. Just look at all those amazing women fighting the Westlake radioactive. They didn't have connections to the entire, or with their local leaders. So my advice would be find someone you admire and emulate that person, and read up on history. The toxic waste dump prices at Love Now, for instance, Lois Gibbs, who led the charge against that. Lois was a huge influence on me when I was
Kim, we're going to actually listen for a few minutes to a talk that you gave, and then we're going to come back and shift our focus to talking about health precautions that people can take. So,
and Lisa, before we do, can I please just give a couple websites to people just to jot down?
Absolutely.
For ways to help for the Fukushima Fallout Awareness Network. That's www.ffan.us. And that has all of the petitions that I recommend, everything FAN's been working on. Take some time to look at that site, and you'll see other links within. There are media clips, articles, previous interviews. There's a lot of great information. That's really the one website I wanted to have people write down. Thank you.
Thank you. And listeners, realize, as Kim was saying, each of us as individuals joined together, acting consciously makes such a difference. Let's listen to this presentation that Kim gave.
Cancer used to be a rare disease. However, currently the American Cancer Society estimates that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will get cancer. A recent study published in the British Journal of Cancer in the UK states that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 2 women will be diagnosed with the disease at some point in their lives. The danger of radiation exposure continues to increase. Fukushima is far from over. There were 3 nuclear meltdowns, and those 3 devastated reactors are still actively leaking more than 300 tons of radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean every day. In May of 2015, the man in charge of decommissioning Fukushima Daiichi stated on national television in Japan that the solution to the radiation leaks still needs to be invented, and appealed for international assistance to create the necessary technology.
Now Masuda is in charge of the entire decommissioning process at the Fukushima Daiichi.
It's a very big challenge. Honestly speaking, I cannot say it's possible, but I also do not wish to say it's impossible.
Shortly afterward, the United Nations reported that even more radioactive water will need to be discharged into the Pacific Ocean. In March of 2011, when the Fukushima disaster began, there was an unusually long rainy season in California, extending well into June. This means that the powerful jet stream carried radiation that came down in rainfall throughout the U.S. As early as April of 2011, radioactive cesium from Fukushima was detected in cow's milk in Vermont. Once radioactive fallout lands on agricultural fields, it bioaccumulates in soil and in the food we eat, and these radionuclides also bioaccumulate in human and animal tissue, including heart muscle and bones. So what's being done to protect our food supply? Not nearly enough. Our imports are not being tested consistently, nor are the results being made transparent to the public. And in response to Fukushima, and despite much opposition, the Environmental Protection Agency actually increased acceptable levels of radiation in drinking water. And in addition, people are surprised to learn that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration currently fosters the highest allowable levels for radiation for food in the world, which in fact is at minimum 12 times higher than Japan's limits. So this means that food deemed unfit for consumption in Japan is considered perfectly fine in the U.S. In fact, the FDA has been criticized for advising pregnant women to eat more seafood since the Fukushima disaster began. The American Medical Association recommended that due to Fukushima, seafood should be carefully tested for radiation. However, that would still be at the FDA's guideline, which is the least protective in the world. And finally, trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership could weaken food safety regulations in the U.S. even more. What makes food a particular concern? Well, food is a delivery system to the body of both healthy minerals and dangerous ones, such as heavy metals and radionuclides from nuclear power production. Ingestion of radionuclides is the most dangerous form of exposure because of the effect on internal organs. At increased risk are women and children, especially girls, and the fetus. Cancers usually take at least 5 to 10 years to develop before symptoms appear. Exposure is cumulative over a lifetime, passed along genetically to offspring. The late Dr. Rosalie Bertell referred to this as transgenerational DNA damage. And we know from research conducted during the Chernobyl nuclear disaster that this is a very real occurrence. This information can be overwhelming to deal with, but know that there are things you can do to minimize risk to you and your loved ones. For example, there are conscious food choices to make of what to eat and what to avoid, nutritional supplements to take to help block your body's ability to absorb some radioactive isotopes, detoxification protocols that can help remove some radionuclides from the body, ways to purify water that may be carrying radiation, cleaning practices around the home to minimize your risk, and ways to help safeguard pets. Libby Halevi and I worked together to create a dialogue through what we call Radiation Awareness Protection Talk, or RAPT. Many of the points we cover also address exposure from heavy metals, pesticides, and industrial pollution in the environment and in food. You can learn more by going to raptawareness.com. It's our goal for you to gain the most up-to-date information so that you can help best protect yourself, your loved ones, your children and grandchildren for generations to come. There is no absolute guarantee of protection against man-made radiation. However, there are steps to take to give you, your family, and our communities the best chance at a long and healthy life.
Well said, Kimberly. So tell us about your nutrition consulting work with New Health Design, which is, I believe, the forum that you use to help people.
Sure. Well, that's one of them. And I wanted to mention that was a clip from the TV show Positive Spin, which is a program media project of the Unity Foundation. And that's a nonprofit organization affiliated with the United Nations. So it was really an honor to be on that program. And the full episode is at wrappedawareness.com. Go to www.raptawareness.com. I believe it's in the media section. So thank you for playing that. We had a lot of information and we had to cram into 5 minutes. That was really all the time that I had.
You did a really good job of getting a lot across in a very concise manner.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And Libby Halevi helped me enormously with that, too. She's my partner with the Radiation Awareness Protection Talk program. But before I get to that, you had asked about New Health Design. So prior to Fukushima unleashing its fury, I was working in the nutrition field. I had taken a break to stay home to start a family. But prior to that, I began consulting nutrition, holistic nutrition, back in 1998. Holistic meaning looking at the whole body and spirit. And I work with chiropractors and acupuncturists and herbalists, and I'm doing that again through my website, newhealthdesign.com. But in nutrition, I'd worked primarily with people in recovery from eating disorders and chemical dependency. And I kind of fell into that. There was a job that was available, and I trained for it, and I worked under some really amazing people like Victoria Green in San Francisco, and it was a wonderful opportunity. But I still had an understanding of the general, human health as it relates to nutrition and sound nutrition. And my own experience, I have health challenges. I had many more before I started looking at how organic nutrition, affects us, and it really changed my life. So what happened, though, in March of 2011, I was taking a break. I'd been home taking care of my son, and I was made aware of what was happening in Japan, and I really started to despair. My heart was breaking because how was I ever going to go back to work in the field that I cherished, understanding now that, there is no distinction. Radioactivity falls on organic fields and conventional fields. It does not know the difference. Some of the foods that I previously thought were the best and were proven to be the best and the most healthy were now probably some of the most at risk. I mean, definitely look at fish, the ocean, look at grass-fed beef and eggs, fish oil, all of these things that I was telling people, what I had been taught, the best way to go. And this is cutting edge, by the way, back in 1998, so much more commonplace now. So many more people are doing this. They're eating kale chips and feeding them to their children. Well, kale, where is that coming from? Or where is that? A lot of the kale's coming from California, but a lot of them are also seaweed chips. Where are those coming from? Pacific. Some Japan. So everything had to be examined more thoroughly. So New Health Design is about that, and kind of translating that into ways that I can consult with people, help them on a one-on-one basis. And I recently gave a lecture at Bowman College, and it was very well received, and everybody in the audience was a nutritionist or some type of health professional who for the first time was really actively grappling with how are they going to share this information with their clients. So that's also a big part about what I'm doing now and will be doing. It's a whole new mindset, a whole new awareness, really.
Well, so then you and Libby came together to co-produce RAPT, the Radiation Awareness Protection Talk.
That's right. Now, for the consulting piece of it, people can go to newhealthdesign.com and click on the consultation link and look around and contact me, and Of the two of us, I'm the one that does the consultations. Now, what she and I do together is right now we're promoting RAPT, Radiation Awareness Protection Talk. She had approached me it's been almost 2 years now, to create a program that would compile the most reliable information we have, and it's been updated, the ways to best safeguard against man-made radiation in our environment, in our air, food, and water. Excuse me. Much of the information in RAPT is also applicable to a wide variety of toxins in our air, food, and water, and in the biosphere in general. Because not only are we really concerned about the massive radiation problem that's ongoing, not just at Fukushima, but all over the world, but also geoengineering, otherwise known as chemtrails. And for anyone who still doubts it exists, you just need to Google chemtrails, and you're going to find the term, with the term geoengineering, you'll find universities and private sector websites that map out the reasons for geoengineering and how it's happening right now. So it's no longer a conspiracy theory. This is something that is a real problem, what goes up and down. And fracking is another huge concern. There's radiation that's emitted into groundwater and the atmosphere with fracking. So there are so many ways that we need to be focused on, but Libby and I were able to find simple steps to follow that really cover a lot of bases.
Well, one thing I also wanted to ask you, Kimberly, is when you go shopping now and when you prepare food for your family, how is this informing what you buy and what you eat?
Well, another great reason to do RAPT is to try to save people some of that process, because it was a real struggle to come around to knowing what to do. And having worked a lot with people in the past with chemical dependency and eating disorder issues, I saw how it was possible for these fears to translate into those problems. So my mind was just swimming for years, really, with information conflicting, how to best put this together. So what I've done is I've decided, to take a really deep breath, first of all, before shopping and during shopping. Take a list beforehand. I know that sounds kind of silly, but to really be mindful about it. Once you're there in the shopping area, you're not quite as inundated if you make a plan ahead of time. And eating much, much more vegetables and less animal product. Absolutely, because we know that radiation bioaccumulates in cattle and chicken and in seafood. Absolutely. A lot of the seafood, bluefin tuna, comes from the Fukushima area, the northern area of Japan, swims right over here to California. There were 2 studies where every single bluefin tuna caught tested positive for radioactive cesium, every single one. So think about that before you go for sushi or fish oil. So just really carefully sourcing. More vegetables, more cleansing foods. And on the New Health Design website, I have written out, what a cleansing diet means. There's a plan right there. So take a look at that. And then carefully sourcing the rest. There are stores that will sell, for people who are carnivores, that will sell not grass-fed, but grass-fed beef, but from the southern hemisphere, which has been much less impacted from Fukushima. New Zealand and Australia. There are readings that people are getting down there, but they're much less than what we see in other parts of the world. Avoiding Pacific seafood for the time being. I mean, this is where the FDA petition comes into play again. They need to be stepping up and testing responsibly and making those findings transparent to the public, which they're not doing. So until they do, I've been telling people, maybe take a closer look at fish oil capsules and instead trade it out for hemp oil, coconut oil. You don't get the same profile of amino acids, but you get good ones. There are plenty of good, nutritious alternatives. And I've blogged about that. My blogs are available on my website as well at New Health Design. And then back to, RAPT, we basically have a list on that program that helps people understand better sourcing for food. better steps to take.
So, Kimberly, can you give us a few recommendations then for best safeguarding our health and the protocol that you're following for you and your family to bring you more peace of mind?
Yeah. Well, one thing I always tell people that they might not think about is be sure to take a multivitamin and mineral supplement. And the reason why, and this is for kids too, and to make it a high quality multivitamin and mineral supplement, not the ones that you're going to find at the drugstore. You'll have to go to a health food store for these. What they'll do is they will help to fill up areas in the body that are organs in the body that are most susceptible to radiation. So we've all heard about how in the event of a nuclear emergency, we're supposed to take iodine 131 for the thyroid. And the thing is that the potassium iodide, sorry about that. You take the potassium iodide to block the iodine 131 in the thyroid. Okay? Blood thyroid with natural iodine, and then there won't be room for the 131 to get in, or not nearly as easily. And the same goes for calcium in the body. If you have good stores of high-quality calcium in your body, strontium-90, which is a bone seeker, radioactive bone seeker, will be much less likely to be absorbed into the bones. And there are others. So if you take a broad-spectrum, high-quality multivitamin and mineral, emphasis on the mineral supplement, that goes a long, long way. And when you're looking for kids' vitamins, look at the label and be sure that they're not sourcing the omega-3 from tuna or the potassium iodide from kelp, because a lot of them do. Have to be really careful with that. And again, going back to the FDA petition that Van filed, we need protections for nutritional supplements as well, not just food. Right now, it's virtually unregulated, so we need that. Another thing would be to carefully filter water. And there are a number of systems out there that are like for house systems, and also under the counter in the kitchen, and also above counter for even water pitchers. So the best thing I think to do is to look at the water filters that do several different things, not just a carbon filter, or not just reverse osmosis, or not just ionic exchange. They actually make filters now that do all three, which is just a much more comprehensive way of filtering water, because not all radionuclides are picked up by one or the other. And again, there are hundreds that come out of these accidents. I think over 400 to be close. So, we can only do the best that we can. But reverse osmosis is recommended by EPA. But then we also have activated carbon, which picks up more of the iodine 131. And then the ionic exchange, which is highly recommended for removing radioactive cesium. So there was one website I saw that looked promising, and that's purewaterfreedom.com. So if you guys want to check that out. And we also have other recommendations on our Rads program. And then I guess the other thing I would say is carefully source all of your nutritional supplements, and especially zeolite. And I'm very much a fan of purified liquid zeolite, as is Levy. When we were researching RAP, looked at a lot of different supplements. And the thing about natural cellular defense, purified liquid zeolite, it's the only one out there that we found that is really purified. So cages that attract these heavy metals that are in the zeolite are cleaned out when you take the product. There are a lot of zeolites on the market that don't do that. Some of them, when you buy them, they're already loaded with toxins from when they were mined in the ground. So that could harm, and it certainly isn't going to hurt. It's not going to help you to take a product that's not going to have room to absorb toxins. So NCD has good scientific data behind it. There's a very short presentation, I think it takes a little over 10 minutes at New Health Design when you click on detox, given by Rick Deitch, who is the biochemist who developed the product. So for me, carefully sourcing food and supplements, taking the multivitamin and mineral supplement, and purifying water are just the very basic steps to take that everyone should be doing.
So, I mean, it's very likely that the listeners can assume that they ought to be doing something to drop the toxification from their bodies all across the United States. Wouldn't you say, whether they can see it, taste it, or feel it? It's most likely impacted everyone across North America. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, it is. And, I mean, until we get the testing, though, we really have no way of knowing for sure, because radiation, the deposition of man-made radiation and fallout is very unpredictable. It lands in some places where you'll get hotspot readings and in others where you won't. But there is enough out there from enough sources that I think it's a safe that people are being exposed across the United States. And absolutely. So I think everybody does need to be taking these measures. And, also food from Japan that's coming into the U.S., where it's being refused by other countries. Japan and Taiwan are sending shipments back with green tea and other things. And here in the U.S., we have most people think, oh, green tea is great, and they guzzle it, and they feel like it's going to help their health, where if it's coming from the northern region of Japan, it's not going to be helping them. And, that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. So it's all about being mindful and conscious and finding alternatives. It's a whole new age. Fukushima changed everything.
Yes, it has. And so the natural cellular defense, then, does it actually then help take those toxins out of the body?
Yes, it does. And I believe that Libby, when she was on your show, was it last week, she went into a lot of detail about that. I know we're kind of winding down now, but if people want to learn more, then maybe they should go listen to her interview, and also to the one that we have at raptawareness.com. We also have Rick Deitch's, I should say, interview. He corrected me on the pronunciation of his last name. He's the co-author, along with Dr. Stuart Lonke, of Environmental Pillars, and there is definitely considerable scientific data to support. There are several studies that they're still doing now with the zeolite. It literally attracts and traps toxins, heavy metals, and cesium from the body, radioactive cesium and strontium, and flushes it out. So do some more research, guys. Definitely pick the one you think is best, but I will tell you that natural cellular defense is the one that really is the one that we recommend.
So what's next, Kimberly? What projects are you planning going forward?
Well, I know Libby and I are talking about doing a webinar series this summer, probably more like in the fall, to, interact with people on the internet in a way that isn't just pointing them to our website with all of the data that we have. We wanted to do something that was a little more interactive, so we're planning that, and we also have a book in the pipeline that we're working on, but it's going to take some time. She's extremely busy, and so am I, so that's probably what we have planned next. And then I'm always open to talking to people that need some help and consultation around this. I'll say that back in 2011, when I was first trying to understand this whole situation, I did reach out to someone who helped me with some basic information, but it was so, there was just such a void of it online. And now, with RAP, we've made it so much more accessible. And there are 6 different audios in the program. So they're available through direct download. And so we're continuing to promote RAP in whatever way we can. We just feel like this is super important information to get out. And people are fatigued with hearing so much negative information. This is the positive information. This is the good stuff as we kind of shift our consciousness into a way that we can live with this and not just be in a place of fear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kim. And listeners, remember to please visit newhealthdesign.com for more information on Kim's work. And for information and to order Waora Natural Cellular Defense and benefit the WBN Slope Project, if you visit www.mywaora.com, that's WAIORA.com/886527, because I should tell you that even before I got in contact with Kimberly, that I am, for my own self-protection, taking natural cellular defense. And to learn how to become part of the Utopian Reality Slope mission, contact whitebuffalonation@gmail.com and visit wnslope.weebly.com and our White Buffalo Nation Facebook page, and support the Slope mission at gofundme.com/slope. And join us tomorrow, June 4th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when we continue our conversation with Professor John R.R. Searle and his wife Judith, discussing free energy and radiation amelioration with the Searle Effect Generator technology. And Sunday, June 5th at 2 p.m., when Bobby Oren of BAO Health Enterprises discusses his work bringing help to those suffering from contaminated municipal water supplies with Folium EX. Thanks, Kim. Is there anything more you'd like to say to the listeners at this point?
Well, I would just say to those of you who have already been working to further the health and safety of the planet, thank you. For those who haven't, please do more. And we could use the petition signatures at fan.us, ffan.us, and do everything that you can to become involved if you aren't already, and to keep the faith. We're living in a new era now, and it's all about adapting, not to be scared, but to be prepared. Thanks.
Thanks, Kim. We're going to close with a piece of music by a slope artist that's an artist who is working to help save and sustain life on planet Earth, John Franklin Fletcher. And thanks, Kim, for joining us. Thanks for everything that you're doing for all of us. It's so appreciated.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
One God, one Creator, one universe, one supreme, one divine. Then why are we fighting each other? We all should be ashamed. What a crying shame. We're in this all together. When do we say enough is enough? The insanity just has to stop. The temple of God is inside us. Whatever happened to God we trust? When do we say enough is enough? The insanity just has to stop. Temple of God is inside us. Whatever happened to in God we trust. Regardless of religion, cast or creed, we are one. Living on this planet together. Why can't we just get along? Regardless of religion, caste, color, or creed, we are one. Living on this planet together. Why can't we just get along? One God, one Creator, one universe, one supreme, one divine. Then why are we fighting each other? We all should be ashamed. What a crying shame. We're in this all together. When do we say enough is enough? The insanity just has to stop. The temple of God is inside us. Whatever happened to in God we trust. When do we say enough is enough? The insanity just has to stop. Temple of God is inside us. Whatever happened to in God we trust. Regardless of religion, caste or creed, we are one. Living on this planet together. Why can't we just get along? Regardless of religion, caste, color, or creed, we are one. Living on this planet together. Why can't we just get along? One God, one Creator, one universe, one supreme, one divine. Then why are we fighting each other? We all should be ashamed. What a crying shame. We're in this all together. There is only one God. We are in this all together.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is Lisa Wolf. Together, let's save life on planet Earth. That's yours, mine, and all of ours, on and in the land, waters, and air. Thanks for joining us. Till next time.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Earlier this week, Claire Tippins shared a princess nickname generator, 3 pictures of her dog wearing a tutu, and 2 online quizzes, including what candy is your dream castle made of? Claire, your sharing has tipped the sugar scale and turned into oversharing. But have no fear, princess. Geico has something worth sharing with your internet kingdom, like how you could save hundreds on your car insurance just by visiting geico.com. No magic wand required. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday, Cliff Sora shared a top 10 list of hot fusion restaurants, a vegan gluten-free mashup recipe, and a podcast featuring organic food trends. Oh, TMI, too much internet information. That's oversharing. Cliff, Geico has something worth sharing with your friends. Like how on geico.com you could save hundreds on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim. Gluten-free info that's easy to swallow. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.